Jake and Rebecca Haro, the parents of a 7-month-old baby who's been missing for nearly 2 weeks, now facing murder charges. Both of them making their first court appearance yesterday afternoon, shackled and handcuffed. As for baby Emmanuel Haro, now presumed dead, his body yet to be recovered. This morning, both Riverside and San Bernardino County law enforcement speaking publicly about the case for the first time.
It's appropriate to have a press conference because it was the defendants in this case that had a press conference first. And they did so in order to tell the public, the media, and ultimately law enforcement that their child had been kidnapped, when in fact that's not what occurred.
It all started the night of Thursday, August 14th, when Rebecca Haro claimed that she'd been attacked in this Big 5 parking lot in Yucaipa. When she came to, she claimed her little boy had been kidnapped. The very next morning, Rebecca appearing to make a tearful plea for help.
Please, I'm begging you. Please, God, please.
Less than an hour after our interview at the family home, many of them then showing up at the Big 5 parking lot saying they were back there trying to organize a search effort. But it wasn't long before people started to wonder whether this couple was telling the truth. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department saying Jake and Rebecca Haro were no longer cooperating with detectives. Others noting that in our first interview with the family, Jake Haro was already talking about his son in the past tense.
He was a healthy baby. He was crawling, he was kicking, he was playing with his toys.
At the news conference today, District Attorney Mike Hestrin referencing a case from 2 years ago in which Jake Haro pleaded guilty to child abuse on one of his other children, but did not go to prison.
The judge decided Mr. Haro deserved an extra break and gave him probation and basically 180 days of work release, which ends up being like community service.
The district attorney calling that judge's decision outrageous. Both Jake and Rebecca Haro remain behind bars, bail set at $1 million.
A mother's desperate 911 call echoes through the night. He took my baby. Please, you have to find him. But as investigators peel back the layers of this horrific crime, they discover something far more sinister than a random kidnapping. 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro didn't just vanish, he was murdered by the very people sworn to protect him. And the most chilling part? The justice system had already failed once before, setting the stage for this unthinkable tragedy. Welcome back to Cold Crime Cases, where we expose the darkest corners of human nature and fight for justice that too often goes unserved. I'm your host, and if this is your first time joining our community of truth seekers, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because your city, your community, could be harboring the next Emmanuel Haro case. Picture this: Cabazon, California, a quiet desert community where palm trees sway against rugged mountain backdrops, where neighbors know each other's names and children play safely in their yards. This was supposed to be Emmanuel's sanctuary, his place of safety and love. Instead, it became his tomb. Emmanuel Haro was more than just another statistic. He was a beautiful 7-month-old boy with the most captivating brown eyes that sparkled with innocence and trust. His slight cross-eyed gaze gave him an endearing charm that melted hearts. At just 24 inches tall and weighing 21 pounds, he was the perfect picture of healthy babyhood. His soft brown hair caught the California sunlight, and his infectious smile could brighten the darkest day. Emmanuel loved being cradled in loving arms, gurgling with delight when his favorite black Nike onesie was pulled over his tiny frame. But behind closed doors, in the home where he should have been safest, Emmanuel was living a nightmare that no child should ever endure. Let me take you back to where this horror story truly begins, not in August 2025, but 7 years earlier, in 2018. Jake Haro, Emmanuel's father, was already a monster hiding in plain sight. His 10-week-old daughter, Promise, became his first known victim. The injuries inflicted on this helpless infant were beyond comprehension: multiple broken bones, a devastating skull fracture, and a catastrophic brain hemorrhage that would rob her of everything: her ability to walk, to talk, to see, to live a normal life. When investigators seized Jake's iPad, they discovered a search that still chills law enforcement to the bone: how to feed a baby with broken ribs. Think about that for a moment. While this innocent baby lay broken and suffering, her father was Googling how to continue caring for her without addressing the horrific abuse he had inflicted. Promise survived, but she would spend the rest of her life trapped in a body devastated by her father's violence, diagnosed with cerebral palsy, forever dependent on others for her most basic needs. Justice seemed within reach when Jake was arrested and charged. But here's where the system catastrophically failed. By 2023, instead of facing the consequences his crimes demanded, Jake Haro struck a plea deal. Prosecutors fought for a 4-year prison sentence, a modest request for destroying a child's life. But Judge Dwight Moore had other plans. In a decision that would haunt the community forever, he sentenced Jake to mere probation and child batterer classes. Child batterer classes. For a man who had fractured an infant's skull and broken her bones. By May 2025, Jake Haro walked free, returning to his home, his new wife Rebecca, and their innocent baby boy, Emmanuel. The system had given a proven child abuser a second chance to destroy another life. And destroy it he did. The timeline of Emmanuel's final days reads like a horror novel, each date marking another step toward tragedy. August 3, 2025, Rebecca Haro appears with a prominent black eye, a detail that investigators would later realize was far more significant than anyone initially understood. This wasn't just domestic violence, it was a warning sign of the escalating violence brewing in the Haro household. 2 days later, on August 5, Rebecca attends her brother's funeral, alone. Emmanuel is nowhere to be seen. Later, investigators would determine this was likely the last time anyone outside the family could verify that Emmanuel was still alive. What happened in that house during those crucial days may never be fully known, but the evidence suggests it was nothing short of torture. Fast forward to August 14, 7:47 p.m. Rebecca's frantic 911 call pierces through the evening air from the parking lot of a Big 5 sporting goods store in Yucaipa. Her story is compelling, desperate, and completely fabricated. "I was changing Emmanuel's diaper," she sobs to the dispatcher. "This man came out of nowhere, hit me in the head, knocked me unconscious, and when I woke up, my baby was gone." It's the kind of story that immediately triggers massive law enforcement response, Amber Alerts, community searches, media coverage. But experienced investigators know that the devil is in the details, and Rebecca's story was riddled with inconsistencies that began unraveling almost immediately. Surveillance footage from the Big 5 parking lot tells a different story. Only one vehicle enters the lot during the timeframe Rebecca claims, her white car. No mysterious attacker. No struggle. No kidnapper fleeing with a screaming infant. Just Rebecca, alone, crafting an elaborate lie to cover up an unspeakable truth. Scent tracking dogs, trained to follow the faintest traces of human presence, find absolutely nothing in the parking lot to suggest Emmanuel was ever there. These dogs can detect scents days old, can follow trails through the most challenging terrain, but in this case, they find no trace of the baby Rebecca claims was snatched from her arms. But perhaps most damning of all, that black eye Rebecca sports during her tearful 911 call? Investigators discover it was documented 11 days earlier, on August 3. Her story of being attacked by Emmanuel's kidnapper doesn't just fall apart, it reveals a calculated attempt to use existing injuries to support a fabricated timeline. By August 15, Jake and Rebecca appear on television, delivering what should have been heartbreaking pleas for their son's safe return. But even in their grief, red flags emerge that trained investigators immediately recognize. Jake, speaking about Emmanuel, slips into past tense, he was a happy baby. Not is, but was. In the minds of parents whose child has been kidnapped, hope dies hard. They speak in present tense, clinging to the belief their child is still alive somewhere. Jake's subconscious slip reveals a father who already knows his son is dead. The next day, when investigators schedule follow-up interviews to clarify inconsistencies in their initial statements, Rebecca suddenly becomes unavailable. The grieving mother transforms into an uncooperative suspect, dodging questions and avoiding law enforcement contact. Perhaps most tellingly, no Amber Alert is issued for Emmanuel Haro. These alerts, designed to mobilize entire communities in the search for missing children, are only withheld when law enforcement has compelling reason to believe the child is already deceased and the reported kidnapping is fabricated. These cases remind us how dangerous the world can be. That's why I created a survival guide that shows you real safety strategies drawn from true crime stories. Check out True Crime Survival Guide. The link is waiting for you in the description and pinned comment. It's filled with real-world lessons from cases just like Emmanuel's that could help protect you and your loved ones. On August 17th, the investigation escalates dramatically. Search warrants are executed at the Haro residence, and investigators emerge carrying boxes of potential evidence, computers, phones, tablets, anything that might contain digital breadcrumbs leading to the truth about Emmanuel's fate. By August 19th, public tips begin flooding in, but Jake and Rebecca's cooperation comes to an abrupt halt. When investigators request polygraph examinations, standard procedure in missing child cases, the couple demands attorneys and refuses further questioning. The reward money offered for Emmanuel's safe return is quietly withdrawn as authorities lose confidence in the parents' version of events. August 20th brings multiple police responses to the Haro residence, though the specific nature of these calls remains sealed in court documents. A fire near the property raises suspicions, though it's later determined to be unrelated to Emmanuel's disappearance. Then comes August 22nd, the day the facade finally crumbles completely. Jake and Rebecca Haro are arrested and charged with murder. Not kidnapping. Not child endangerment. Murder. The supposed abduction that had captured media attention for over a week was nothing more than an elaborate cover-up for the ultimate act of parental betrayal. Investigators now believe Emmanuel died between August 5th and August 14th, killed by the very people who should have been his protectors. The kidnapping story, the tearful television appearances, the frantic 911 call, all of it was theater, designed to deflect suspicion from the real killers. But here's what makes this case even more heartbreaking: Emmanuel's body has never been found. Somewhere in the vast California desert, this innocent child's remains lie hidden, denied even the dignity of a proper burial while his killers crafted lies and played the role of grieving parents. The search efforts have been massive and coordinated. On August 24th, law enforcement conducted extensive searches along the 60 freeway corridor, utilizing cadaver dogs and bringing Jake Haro himself to potentially guide them to locations where Emmanuel's body might be concealed. The fact that they brought the suspected killer on these searches suggests investigators believe they're close to uncovering the truth. Digital evidence may prove crucial in this case. Investigators have seized smartphones, iPads, gaming consoles, and Rebecca's vehicle, searching for any electronic trail that might reveal Emmanuel's final moments or the location of his remains. In today's connected world, even the most careful criminals often leave digital fingerprints that can expose their crimes. Medical experts examining the case point to disturbing parallels with Jake's previous conviction. The pattern of violence against promise, broken bones, internal injuries, escalating abuse, appears to have repeated with Emmanuel. This wasn't a moment of rage or an accident, it was the calculated brutality of a man who had already proven his capacity for destroying innocent lives. The most chilling aspect of the evidence isn't what investigators found, but what they didn't find. No witness can place Emmanuel anywhere after August 5th. No one saw him at stores, at medical appointments, in public spaces where healthy babies are normally taken. It's as if he simply vanished from the world, existing only within the walls of his family home where unspeakable violence was being perpetrated. Rebecca's claim of being knocked unconscious doesn't align with her documented injuries. The black eye she displayed as proof of her attack existed nearly 2 weeks before the alleged kidnapping. Either she's the victim of repeated domestic violence that she's desperately trying to hide, or she's actively participating in the cover-up of her son's murder. The investigation moved with unprecedented speed and coordination. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, supported by Riverside County authorities, treated this as the community tragedy it truly was. Sheriff Shannon Dicus made personal appeals to the public, understanding that cases like this shake the very foundations of community trust and safety. District Attorney Mike Hestrin didn't mince words when addressing the systemic failures that led to Emmanuel's death. He called Judge Moore's 2023 sentencing decision an outrageous error that directly contributed to this tragedy. When a proven child abuser receives probation instead of prison time, the message sent to both the perpetrator and potential future victims is clear: children's lives are expendable. Community response was swift and passionate. Volunteer search teams scoured the desert landscape, hoping against hope that Emmanuel might still be found alive. Social media exploded with theories, tips, and outrage. Users like @SF_investigates questioned the timeline inconsistencies, while @WienerDogwify pointed to suspicious deaths in Jake's family history, including his brother Hector's death years earlier in the same house. The parents quickly transitioned from sympathetic figures to primary suspects. Jake, with his documented history of child abuse, was labeled by authorities as an experienced child abuser, a clinical term that barely captures the horror of his crimes. Rebecca maintained her innocence, continuing to insist that Emmanuel was truly kidnapped and that she was being wrongly accused. But the evidence painted a different picture entirely. So what really happened to Emmanuel Haro? Multiple theories have emerged, each more disturbing than the last. The official law enforcement theory centers on systematic abuse that escalated to murder. According to this scenario, Jake and Rebecca subjected Emmanuel to increasing violence between August 5 and August 14, ultimately killing him through injuries that mirrored Jake's previous crimes against promise. The fake kidnapping story was then crafted to deflect investigation and buy time to dispose of evidence. This theory is supported by Jake's established pattern of violence, the complete fabrication of the abduction story, and the wealth of digital evidence seized from the home. However, without Emmanuel's body, the case relies heavily on circumstantial evidence and behavioral analysis. A second theory suggests Jake acted as the primary aggressor, with Rebecca either actively participating or being too terrified by domestic violence to protect her son. Her documented black eye supports claims of ongoing abuse within the household. This scenario portrays Rebecca as both a victim and a passive accomplice, paralyzed by fear but ultimately complicit in Emmanuel's death. More conspiracy-minded observers point to potential involvement by other family members or associates. The mysterious death of Jake's brother Hector years earlier, combined with the coordinated nature of the cover-up, suggests possible outside assistance in concealing Emmanuel's fate. Finally, Rebecca continues to maintain her original story, that Emmanuel was genuinely kidnapped and that both parents are innocent victims of a rush to judgment. However, the overwhelming evidence contradicting this narrative makes it increasingly difficult to accept. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed, I'm honestly curious, what's holding you back? Drop it in the comments. I actually want to know. This took me hours of painful research, reading police reports, examining evidence photos, and confronting the reality that our justice system failed this innocent child. If you felt safe watching from your screen, the least you can do is hit that red subscribe button. As we record this on August 29, 2025, Jake and Rebecca Haro face murder charges with special circumstances, along with charges for filing false reports. Jake's bail has been set at $1 million, while Rebecca has been denied bail entirely, deemed too much of a flight risk to be released pending trial. Their arraignment is scheduled for September 4, but Emmanuel's body remains missing, leaving investigators and the community without closure. District Attorney Hestrin has vowed to pursue justice aggressively, pointing to Jake's previous conviction as evidence of systemic failures that could have prevented this tragedy. Promise's adoptive mother, whose daughter bears the permanent scars of Jake's earlier violence, captured the community's anguish perfectly. Justice wasn't served then, and now another child is gone. Her words echo the frustration of everyone who wonders how many children might still be alive if the justice system had taken Jake's first conviction seriously. The search for Emmanuel continues, with multiple tip lines remaining active. Anyone with information is urged to call 909-890-4904 or the anonymous tip line at 1-800-78-CRIME. Even the smallest detail could be the key to finally bringing Emmanuel home and ensuring his killers face full accountability. But beyond the immediate search for justice in this case lies a broader question that haunts every parent, every community member, every person who cares about child welfare. How do we prevent the next Emmanuel Haro? The warning signs were there. Jake's history of violence was documented and prosecuted. The injuries to Promise should have been enough to ensure he never had the opportunity to harm another child. Yet systemic failures, judicial leniency, and perhaps society's willingness to give second chances to those who don't deserve them created the perfect storm for this tragedy. Emmanuel Haro should be celebrating his first birthday soon, taking his first steps, saying his first words. Instead, his short life has become a cautionary tale about the price of failing to protect our most vulnerable citizens. The investigation continues, but for Emmanuel, time has run out. His bright brown eyes will never again sparkle with joy. His infectious smile will never again light up a room. His tiny hands will never again reach out for the comfort and security that every child deserves. If you love true crime but also want to learn how to protect yourself, I've written a book just for you. It's called True Crime Survival Guide: How to Stay Safe in a Dangerous World. You can grab your copy now through the link in the description and the pinned comment. Cases like Emmanuel's remind us why staying informed and prepared isn't just smart, it's essential. This is more than just another true crime story. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that justice delayed is often justice denied, and that the cost of that denial is measured in innocent lives like Emmanuel's. As we conclude today's investigation, I want you to remember Emmanuel not as a victim, but as a reminder of why we do this work. Every subscription to Cold Crime Cases helps us continue investigating cases that others might forget. Every like helps ensure these stories reach people who need to hear them. Every comment keeps the conversation alive and the pressure on for justice. So here's what I need from you right now. If this case moved you, if it angered you, if it made you want to see justice served, hit that subscribe button and join our community of truth seekers. Share this video because Emmanuel's story deserves to be heard. Drop a comment with your thoughts on the case. Do you think the evidence supports the murder charges? Should Judge Moore be held accountable for his lenient sentencing? What changes need to be made to prevent future tragedies? Your voice matters. Your engagement keeps these cases in the public eye. And sometimes, that pressure is exactly what's needed to ensure justice is finally served. Thank you for joining me in seeking the truth about Emmanuel Haro. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, somewhere out there, the next Emmanuel Haro might be counting on people like us to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Until next time, this is Cold Crime Cases, never forgetting, never giving up, and never letting the truth stay buried. Emmanuel Haro deserves justice. Promise Haro deserves justice. And every child who comes after them deserves a system that puts their safety first, always. Keep fighting for the truth. We'll see you in the next case.